Hi, I'm Michael Lenz, host of Beyond the Headlines. On my next show, I'll sit down with Warren County Economic Development Corporation President Ed Bartholomew to discuss the recent economic news happening in the Glens Falls region. I hope you can join me. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. I'm Michael Lenz. For an update on the economic goings-on in the Glens Falls region, I'll talk with Warren County Economic Development Corporation President Ed Bartholomew when we come back. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Today I'm joined by Warren County Economic Development Corporation President Ed Bartholomew. Joined again, I should say. Ed, you're becoming a regular guest.
We enjoy Saratoga Springs very much.
Absolutely, and we enjoy having you on the show for sure. And there's a lot going on up there. So
we're very fortunate. We're hitting a very good stride, and we just got to make sure that we continue on that success that we've had through a lot of years. Like most communities have experienced some ups and downs. With back in the 60s when the convention center burned here in Saratoga, there was a slide downward, and now you look at the rejuvenation here in 2017. It's a magnificent, great-looking city.
And we've seen that. I mean, we've seen that in Saratoga Springs and even in Glens Falls.
Glens Falls, back in the 50s and 60s, something called urban renewal took half of downtown Glens Falls out. They paid the owners, and they also paid the owners to relocate if they had a business, and they ended up in one of the malls in Queensbury. So at that point, the city really attempted to fight that off by trying to attract retail, but for many, many years, the focus was on the outlets in the malls. And it wasn't until really the mid-'80s that we created historical districts. We undertook activities to rehabilitate buildings, and finally the value of buildings was recognized by the business investors as well as residents. So that really started the trend toward some shops downtown, and most importantly for the city recently has been the advent. We've probably added 400 plus residential units downtown in restored buildings as well as new buildings, such as the Sonny Benaccio and Dave Bucco project in downtown.
Yeah, I mean, when you start bringing people into your downtown to live, I don't think there's anything that revitalizes a community more than that. That
is such an important ingredient, because they're going to want to have, they don't want to get back in their car or even in their bicycle to pedal out of town. They want to have those services available. So that's what's spurring on is our residential development aspects.
Yeah, so let's talk about the $10 million grant. You were back on the show, I think, back in 2016 when you found out that you had won this grant.
Right.
But as you said before we went on the air, that's when the real hard work began. Right. So you had to go through a process of really laying out some of these projects. So tell us about that.
Well, it's important that the money is public money, $9.7 million after the planning of $300,000 was expended. So there's a requirement of a 6-month public process, a lot of transparency. We probably had 15 to 18 public meetings along with outreach at our balloon festival, at the Civic Center, at Taste of North Country, at the Farmers Market, to gain opinions on the various projects that we had proposed in the application. Each of these projects were decided and discussed and voted on by the advisory committee, which we then submitted back to the state for their final sign-off, which they did. Lieutenant Governor came to Glens Falls on May 24th, and the projects then were announced.
So essentially, you find out you have the money. Then you've got to go back and kind of flesh out all those projects and then go back to the state, and the state basically says yes or no on each of those projects.
That's correct, because essentially the application, I thought was a great application. We put together the concepts, but not necessarily the details. In other words, we are creating a new facade program. We're creating a program to have kind of some competitive race to retail to come in. But we needed to develop the criteria of exactly what that meant from the state and what the terms were going to be. And so it took some time, and we're ready to advance many of those programs at this particular point.
And let's talk about some of those projects. I think one of the ones that you had mentioned has you really excited is about the SUNY Adirondack program plan to relocate their culinary program downtown. So tell us about that.
We have been working with probably 4 prior presidents at SUNY, encouraging them to look at downtown for a variety of reasons. We just feel like in Saratoga with Skidmore College, it brings another mixed demographics to your downtown area. And so with Dr. Duffy, we talked about the various concepts, some technology courses, and then we pinned into the area of the Culinary Institute, so that we put into the DRI $500,000 as part of that 9.7 to assist in the move to downtown Glens Falls. They will be locating completion date in the Sonny Bonaccio's project probably in January, February of next year. So that's one project that is off and running. They opened the bids this past week for the fit up inside the building. So we're looking forward. Between 75 to 90 students will be participating year round, 2 semesters, so you have a change of people in the second semester. Really an exciting opportunity for some of our young adults to be having college campus atmosphere in downtown, as well as perhaps renting some of the residents and living there. And because of the great number of apartments we have, I think it's a great opportunity for them, and also an opportunity to work at the number of great restaurants we have in the downtown area. So I think it's a great win for everybody. We'll upgrade our transportation system in terms of the number of the frequency of bus rides back and forth between downtown Glens Falls and the campus.
And as you mentioned, I mean, Queensbury, Glens Falls, the relationship there, but having, just as we see in Saratoga Springs, having those students physically down there in that location brings a whole nother layer of excitement, because it's a different demographic perhaps than the business community is accustomed to. So, and that can't help but bring energy to the downtown.
We're really enthused, and we appreciate the commitment of Dr. Duffy and the Board of Trustees for undertaking this move and really stepping up and expanding their Culinary Institute for the region.
Yeah, we've had Dr. Duffy on as a guest before, and she's doing some pretty remarkable things up there.
She's doing some great things also in the technology buildings that she's building, and also in the workforce development area.
Well, that's exciting, and I know there's a lot of other projects that you've been working on, and we want to kind of spend some time talking about them. But let's take a quick break. We'll take a break and come back and talk about some more specifics as it relates to that grant.
That's great.
Okay, stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. I'm here with Ed Bartholomew. He is the president of the Warren County Economic Development Corporation. Ed, we're talking about the exciting news that you got back in 2016 about the $10 million grant and some of the projects that you're working on as a result of that. And we talked about the SUNY Adirondack relocating the culinary program. A lot of other things going on with that money too, so tell us what's up.
We tried to put together through the DRI, the Downtown Revitalization Advisory Committee, a number of diversified projects. Secondly, one of the real popular selections was creating a year-round farmers market. The farmers market has been in existence in Glens Falls for about 25 years plus, and it's Saturday. It probably has 1,500, 1,700 people that visit. During the winter, they have to pack up and move up to a vacant school a few blocks away from downtown. We felt that it would be important to try to keep that farmers market year-round at one location, so that is our effort to construct a new year-round farmers market that will not only have a farmers market on Saturday. We hope to expand that to another day of the week. More importantly, we're going to be creating a USDA kitchen in there that individuals that can come in once they go through the approval process can put together and create their own products. And also, we're working with Warren County Cooperative Extension, Dr. Seeley, to bring some cooking classes there. Dr. Duffy at SUNY Adirondack has offered to have some students come over and undertake some classes as well. And then during certain times of the year, to have important products, such as in the wintertime, we'll bring in our maple syrup producers from Warren County and Washington County and Saratoga County to come up and have some events related around the snow. It's going to snow in the next few years, as well as maple syrup. And then in the summertime, again, reach out to our vendors and farmers in Washington County and elsewhere to bring up some great dairy products, milkshakes and ice cream, and have that in the farmers market as well. Kind of like pop-ups during certain segments of the year. And then we're looking to maybe perhaps expand into some clothing area that are locally made. Again, reaching out to show off the talent of the people that we have in this area, and that's going to be an exciting addition to downtown, having that presence year-round.
And there's such a movement. I mean, I know just for us personally, we in the last year we now have 4 chickens in our backyard, so we're urban chicken farmers now. So and we do go to the farmers market, and there's definitely this movement, which has been going on for a number of years, into the mainstream, of people having a little bit more self-sustainability, trying to understand where their food's coming from, trying to buy closer to home. In the farmers market, those are exploding in terms of the desire for people to go to them. Even here in Saratoga, we now have 2 farmers markets, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. So it makes a lot of sense to me, that, especially up in the North Country, that would be something that would be appealing to people.
And not only that, the next step, and that's the real key, is to continue to work with our local restaurants, our regional restaurants, to, again, bring more local products. And that's where Cornell Cooperative Extension and other programs is important to perhaps increase the capacity of some of our local farmers, because if you ask them to go to Saratoga markets 2 days a week, a market up in Queensbury in the North Country, they start their capacity of what they have is lessened. And the other thing is that the population of farmers in our area continues to age. And so that's important that through colleges we reach out and start looking at some additional. Certainly we prefer local farmers rather than large corporations coming in to own the farms, which seems to be a pattern in other parts of the state. So I think that's going to be an offshoot of the farmers market, is to work with the farmers in increasing their productivity and bringing more manpower into their farms.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Let's shift gears a little.
Sure.
One of the other areas that seems to be exploding, the ability with the advent of the internet and people's ability to get out there and make films. And we see now in Saratoga, we've had 2 years of having the Saratoga Film Forum, where we've had people come from all over the country to present their short films. And so now the North Country is getting into the film business. Tell us about that.
I think that with the added venues between the Wood Theater, the Queensbury Hotel was part of the film festival this year. Elizabeth Miller's facility on Park Street will be available next year, the Civic Center and others, that we've had 2 years now of very successful running of films. And an offshoot of that has been the ability to attract films in the area without really being well organized. We had a film earlier this year that started last year and continued, and we were kind of manning the phones on that. And we certainly realized after that film and the next film that is underway right now, we need some official help in the sense of having an individual kind of operate, be able to develop a website and tell you from the website, again, who our caterers are, the variety of actors, actresses that we have in the area, the locations and so forth. And I think that this area is so available for filming. The only thing we don't have is the ocean. Other than that, you can think of within our great region, if you really want to have a high scale urban, you go to downtown Albany. You want to have some modest urban areas, you got Saratoga and Glens Falls, but you want to do a film on the racetrack, where do you go? Saratoga Springs. You want to have some scenes on lakes, Saratoga Lake, obviously Lake George. You've got some mountains in the Adirondacks, Lake Placid for Olympic movies. So I think that we are creating officially Adirondack Film Commission that will tie in and work with the other film commissions that are located within the Greater Capital District area. We're going to have a film commissioner, and that person will be Andrew Meter, who has a background in this. And I think that it just will coordinate the area, because when a film comes into Warren County, County, they may want to shoot films in Saratoga and so forth. So there's going to be a lot of reaching across that border to work collectively together. Albany Film Commission folks have been very helpful in Empire State in getting us up and running there. And it's exciting to see the films, and as the films grow and get bigger, to see some of the stars. But from an economic point of view, the number of wonderful benefits, such as the vendors for the food, such as renting of cars, building materials. They spent last week in one film that's being developed in Warren County 5 days at the Lake George Forum, which is vacant at that period of time. They paid some compensation and they built the sets there. They also filmed in several houses in downtown Glens Falls. And so there was a lot of excitement, but I was looking at it toward how many local people were hired, how many caterers were involved in the approach, how many cars were rented, and room nights, over 1,400 room nights in downtown Glens Falls and up Lake George, directly the result of one film.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the mushroom effect that it has.
The economic impact is great.
And that's terrific. And let's take a quick break.
Sure.
And then we'll talk about some more of the projects that you're working on. Okay. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Continuing our discussion with Ed Bartholomew. He's the president of the Warren County Economic Development Corporation. Ed, we were talking about the Adirondack Film Commission and the impact that that's going to have as you're moving forward, really in terms of the economic activity, adding full-time jobs in terms of post-production work. The potential is significant, and you're already seeing some of those results. But even more locally, you had mentioned the Park Street Theater that's going to be renovated. So what's that all about?
Park Street Theater was purchased by Elizabeth Miller, owner of Miller Mechanical, on Park Street, just a block down from the Glens Falls Hospital. Formerly a vaudeville theater back in the 1920s, and after about 4 years it closed up and became auxiliary rooms for the Glens Falls Post-Star for printing, later on private printing, and then it was opened up briefly for kind of a dance studio. And Elizabeth Miller has invested $3 million in that facility to renovate. It's beautiful, and it's not quite done yet. There will be the main floor, 300 seats. So you're looking at a small venue for some concerts, individual singers, some readings and dance recitals and things like that. And then down on the ground floor in the basement, there will be a restaurant. And that will add significant economics again to the city, and just makes the choice. If you've got a promoter that's looking for a venue, obviously large events can go to the Civic Center. Wood Theater is there, a little more of an amphitheater type. And then you've got the Park Theater. So just another opportunity to show off the talent from our area as well as entertainment in our downtown area. And I might add, in addition to the $3 million, she was the recipient of a CFA, a consolidated funding application from the state for $600,000 to help in that project. So substantial project. And again, the continued emphasis, like in Saratoga, on maintaining, renovating, preserving buildings instead of having a big ball out there knocking it down.
Yeah, that is so important. We see that in Saratoga. The ability to preserve these buildings and rework them and reuse them is so important to maintaining that integrity of your downtown. And you mentioned all the different funding sources, and that's really what you do, is try to go out there and get those funding sources to generate economic activity. And one of the things that probably doesn't get talked a whole lot about, but we should spend a little time on it, is the loan portfolio that you have within the Glens Falls area for businesses that want to come in that may need some additional funding beyond what they've already secured to kind of finish off their project. Explain that a little bit to our listeners, because that's an important piece of the puzzle, isn't it?
And as we know, in this area, particularly in Warren County, the bulk of new jobs is created through existing businesses. So we spend a lot of time knocking on doors, sending out emails, letting the existing businesses in our community know that there is funding available. we're not a full-fledged banker. I don't want to get in trouble with Adirondack Trust or Glens Falls National by saying we do that, but we're really gap financing. So individual may go to Adirondack Trust, which now has a branch in Glens Falls and Queensbury, or Glens Falls National, or NBT, and say, we'd like 350, but the appraisal comes back and we only can give you $300,000 loan. And so the banks will call us, or the individual applicant will reach out to see if we are able to provide that $50,000 that is missing. And we sit down and review it, and then go through the appropriate approval process and provide a loan. Generally a little bit shorter in terms of the number of years, maybe 5 to 7 years for that. But again, the beauty of that program is that money repaid comes back in, and we loan that money, back out again. So we were successful in obtaining a grant of $250,000, supplemented by 4 local banks, including Adirondack Trust and Glens Falls National, to contribute to a $500,000 loan portfolio fund that would be used, and we've just started that program October, to lend out to businesses as well as new businesses that are looking to come into Warren County. We also have a couple of other funds, so we in essence probably have close to $1.5 million in monies that can be lent out. Generally, again, we're loaning money out in segments up to $75,000, $100,000, for that. Other than that, we will work with the local banks in assisting them, and perhaps some state funds in order to get the project across.
And as you mentioned, you're not a lender, but it's a revolving loan. So the money goes out, the money comes in. It's a finite amount of money that continues to get revolved around within the community, which is important.
That's right. The fund in Glens Falls was started in 1983, one of the first local development corporations formed in the area, and that fund has recycled the money out probably 5 different times over the course of the money. So it's a great program. Our success rate has been really well, and we do some due diligence there on these funds so that we're not into a large loss on these. It's public taxpayers' money, so that's important. Sure,
absolutely. So let's talk about an oldie but goodie, the Civic Center.
Civic Center, now name is Cool Insuring Arena. And that is Cool Insurance, which was founded in Glens Falls, and by the name of Cool. And Mayor Cool was the first mayor elected as a city mayor when the city became a city in 1908. And they provided a undefined amount of money per year to the coalition, I think for a period of 5 years, to have the naming rights for the Civic Center. And the signs just went up probably about 2 or 3 months ago, and I think that's again part of the rejuvenation of the facility itself, along with the grants that were successful, advanced by Senator Betty Little and Dan Steck and Governor Cuomo. Clearly, nearly $3 million in funds was received by the arena for putting in a new video scoreboard, along with increasing the Wi-Fi capacity and some other maintenance issues in the building there. So we're very appreciative of that, and if you haven't been to the facility in a while, you will be utterly amazed by the improvements, and the old lady got a facelift.
And it's good to see, for sure, because like I said, oldie but goodie. It's been around for a long, long time, and hopefully for a long, long time to come, for sure. Well, Ed, I know you're doing a lot of great work up there. There's things we could have talked about we didn't have time for, so I'm sure you're going to be back. But really, great job up in the North Country.
Thank you. We enjoy that. We have a great EDC board. Have great cooperation with our municipal leaders and the business community in Warren County. So thanks very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Come back and see us again.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right. And you stay with me. I'll be right back in just a few minutes to wrap things up. I want to thank Warren County Economic Development Corporation President Ed Bartholomew for joining me, and thank you for tuning in. Join me next time as we continue our conversation with the business and political leaders who are shaping the news here in Saratoga Springs and the surrounding communities. Until then, for everyone here at Look Media, I'm Michael Lenz. Thanks for spending part of your day with us.